Shivaya.
Om Sadashiva Samarambham
Shankaracharya Madhyamam
Asmadacharya
Acharya
Vande Guru
Paramparam
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning.
Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning.
Okay, so we had completed the 6th chapter in the last class with a small summary also. And somebody had put up a longer summary which I had given during the COVID times. I hope you have seen that. In any case,
Yes, sir.
having seen the complete detail, the summary is anyway incidental. So that was what we call the Prathama Shatakam, the first 6 chapters. So now we are on the Madhyama Shatakam, the middle 6 chapters. We are starting with Saptamodhyayaha, the 7th chapter. So let us just chant it. Atha Saptamodhyayaha. Jnana Vijnana Yogaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Maya Saktamanaf Partha. Yogam Yunjanmadashrayah. Asamshayam Samagram Mam. Yatha Jnasyasi Takshanu. Okay, I've just muted y'all. So the first 3 verses, they are introducing the subject matter of this chapter, and as well as the subject matter of the 12th chapter. So there are, the first 3 verses talk about 2 things. One is the topic covered in Saptamodhyayaha, and one is the topic covered in the 12th chapter also, Dvadashodhyayaha. Okay. The first and last chapters of the Madhyama Shatakam, an introduction is given. So Krishna says, Samagram Mam Yasyasi. So you look at the second line. The second word is Samagram Mam, and Yasyasi is from the last quarter. Samagram Mam Yasyasi. You will come to know me, Samagram. Yasyasi means know, Mam is me. You will come to know me, Samagram, completely. What does he mean by that? So there are 2 natures of the Lord. And when we say Lord, remember we are saying Saguna Brahman. Okay, Saguna Brahman is what? What is another name?
Easwaran. Hiranyakashyap.
No, Hiranyakashyap.
Sorry.
Hiranyagarbha. You got the Hiranyagarbha anyway. Okay.
Hiranyagarbha.
Don't worry about it. It's okay. So Ishvara has 2 natures, the higher and the lower nature. And when we say Ishvara, we mean Saguna Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha, Lord Brahmaji. All sort of names are there. Okay. Incidentally, in some places in the Upanishads, it's called Prana also. So all contextual, but basically Saguna Ishvara is being discussed. Or we can say Purna Ishvara. Okay. What did we see in the last verse of the last chapter? He says, Shraddhavan bhajate mam same yukta tamo mataha. The one who meditates upon me with Shraddha, the one who does Nididhyasanam upon me with Shraddha. He is the one who is the best sadhaka. Right? So now Krishna is talking about this complete Ishvara, higher and lower nature. What do you see as a possible differentiation between the topic of this chapter and the topic of the previous chapters? You will notice that this is a voluntary information, right? No question has come from Arjuna regarding the nature of Ishvara. And therefore, you have to take it that as a good teacher, Lord Krishna has anticipated that Arjuna can ask this question, who exactly are you? Right? And therefore, he is answering that question. Arjuna has not asked. Now, if you see the previous chapters, there's always a question and an answer. But here, there is no question forthcoming from Arjuna about Purna Ishvara Sarupa, complete knowledge about Ishvara. And therefore, this is being volunteered by Krishna, but you have to take it for granted that Krishna anticipates a question. So, Ishvara Jnanam is therefore twofold. And therefore, he says, Samagram Mam. Completely you will know. Completely means what? There are two parts. So, Saguna Brahman is there, Nirguna Brahman is there. Only if you know Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman completely, then only will you know me. Right? The Saguna Swarupa, Saguna Brahman is referred to in many, even Parayanam. For example, all the Dhyana slokas. You have all done the Vishnu Sahasranam Dhyana sloka, Lalita Sahasranam Dhyana sloka. What do these Dhyana slokas describe? They describe a physical form. The visible, tangible form is described for what? For Dhyanam, for meditation purposes. So Dhyana sloka is not to be chanted as, just a parayana, chanting parayanam. It is the meditation part of it, right? So before doing any Vishnu Sahasranam is the parayana. But and what exactly is a parayanam? Parayanam is a chanting, so it's a karma. So if you chant only the Sahasranamam, it's a karma only. But we know that the phalam of karma is enhanced if it is combined with upasana. Right? We have seen that before. And therefore, the Dhyana sloka is always there in the beginning of the Parayanam. So when you chant the Dhyana sloka, it is supposed to be a meditation. You are supposed to invoke, do upasana on that, on the description of the Lord as given in the Dhyana sloka. And that visible, tangible form, Saguna Swarupam, is there. And Krishna is saying here that Saguna Swarupam, which you would see in all these Dhyana slokams, you should know that it is my lower nature. Why is it my lower nature? Because it is subject to arrival and departure. Agama apayanaha. That which comes and goes can never be the real Lord, can never be the higher nature of the Lord. Why does it come and go? Because Saguna Swarupam means there is a form, there is a place, right? So there is, the moment you say that the Lord is sitting in Vaikuntham or the Lord is sitting in Kailasha, you are attributing two things to the Lord. One is space-wise limitation, sitting in Kailasha, sitting in, Vaikuntham, and one is time-wise limitation, right? So Saguna Swarupam, because the Lord comes and goes. Even when you invoke the Lord, when you invoke Lord Shiva, for example, he is coming and is going. When your invocation time he comes, and when your meditation is over, he goes. So there is a time-wise limitation, there is a space-wise limitation, and this is my lower nature. So if you say Lord Krishna, Vishnu only, but Lord Krishna had a birth and a death, and therefore Saguna Swarupam only. And Krishna says, not only do I have a lower nature, I have also a higher nature, which is intangible, which is invisible, which is all-pervading. And that is, he gives it a name. in this chapter. He calls it Para Prakriti. This is the superior nature. And the Saguna form he calls Apara Prakriti, the inferior nature. And when he says, unless you know both, Samagram, you must know both Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti. That means you must know the finite aspect of Ishvara and the infinite aspect of Ishvara. Only when you know both finite and infinite aspects will your knowledge be complete. And therefore, in this chapter, we will get both Saguna Jnanam as well as Nirguna Jnanam. So, Samagram means Saguna plus Nirguna Rupam. That is Sopadhika plus Nirupadhika Rupam. What does Sopadhika mean?
That which has an upadhi.
Sopadhika is with upadhi. Nirupadhika means without upadhis. Any upadhi is Saguna, without upadhi is Nirguna. And therefore he says that complete knowledge, asamshayam jnasyasi, I will impart to you completely. Okay. So this asamshayam basically is an adverb. Okay. The adverb is qualifying which verb?
Yasyasi.
Jnasyasi. Jnasyasi means I am teaching. So I will teach you. So this adverb is qualifying the verb teaching, and therefore he says, I will completely teach you. It's not that I will teach you and you have to extract. I will completely teach you. But there are certain conditions. Okay. He says there are certain conditions for you to be able to understand what I teach. And what are those conditions? Look at the verse. Maya sakta manaha. Mai asakta manaha. So there is a asaktaha and there is a asaktaha. What is the difference?
Asak is attached to asak.
And what is asaktaha? Okay, let's start from scratch. What is saktaha?
With.
Attached to.
With
Okay.
something attached.
What is asaktaha?
Unattached.
Unattached.
Not
Without.
attached. Right? Simple grammar. In front of a word makes it opposite. So sakta is attached, asakta is not attached. Asaktaha, the a indicates intensity of the saktaha. So asaktaha means intensely attached. Mai asakta manaha. You should be strongly obsessed with me, Krishna says. Your desire must be very, very strong. Then only interest will be sustained. And you have to have that to be a mumukshu, right? So then a question is, therefore, if Krishna is saying that I should be your main attachment in life, is moksha the goal or is Ishvara the goal? So what is the ultimate goal of every person? Ultimate goal which we all, at least as Vedantins, we all have only one goal. What is that? Freedom from insecurity. So peace, security, fulfillment, these are all, if you want to put various adjectives to your goal of moksha, peace, security, fulfillment, ananda, these are all the adjectives you can give. And Ishvara alone represents all these goals, because when you say, I want to be free from insecurity, what is that which is totally secure? The infinite alone is totally secure. Why? Anything finite has a boundary. The moment you say something is finite, even if it is Saguna Ishvara, anything finite is bound by time and space. Anything bound by time is subject to destruction and fluctuation. Therefore, when you say I am looking for total security, you are saying I am looking for the infinite. And therefore, seeking security, When you want total security, you are saying infinite security, right? Which cannot be disturbed by anything at all. And therefore, seeking security from a finite source is not a very intelligent thing, because you are seeking infinite security. You cannot seek infinite security from a finite source. It's a very unintelligent way of doing things. And therefore, the only infinite security has to be sought from an infinite source. That infinite source, in Dharma Shastram, in religious terms, it is called Ishvara. In Vedanta Shastram, in Jnana Shastram, it is called Moksha. There is no difference between Ishvara and Moksha. One is from the point of view of Dharma Shastram, one is from the point of view of Jnana Shastram. Dharma Shastram says Ishvara is infinite. Jnana Kanda, Jnana Shastram says Moksha is infinite. And therefore Krishna is saying here that, hey Arjuna, if you are a seeker of Moksha, you are only seeking me, Ishvara. So, Mai Asakta Manaha. May your mind be fixed upon me. May your mind be obsessed with me. And this obsession with Ishvara is called Bhakti, which is a primary requirement for any seeker. Okay, what about other objectives? Wealth, family, children, job, fame. They are all okay. All worldly accomplishments are intermediate stations. It's like if you're going from Trivandrum to Delhi, you will have Nagpur in the middle, you'll have Bhopal in the middle, you have somewhere, a lot of stations will there be in the middle. They're all good to get out and have your chai. But your journey ends only when you reach the final destination. Similarly, for a seeker, there can be any amount of worldly accomplishments, but the journey ends only when you discover infinitude, Purnatva. The only condition here is that the worldly accomplishment should not distract you. It's like you're going to Delhi from Trivandrum and you get off at, let us say, Nagpur, and you forget to catch the train again. You are so distracted, train goes away. So you should ensure that distractions do not take you away from the primary goal. Okay. Now, first line, Yogam Yunjan. Be committed to yoga. So this yoga means there are various sadhanas. Karma yoga is there, Upasana yoga is there, Shravanam is there, Mananam is there. All these are required disciplines, all these are required sadhana. And depending upon your own progress, your own status in life, you may have to take to karma or to Upasana, or if you have done all this in the previous life, to Shravanam. Right? So, Yogam Yunjan here means practicing the relevant sadhana. That is your individual prayatna, individual effort. Okay. And one note here is that many people, many religious people, in fact, very, very religious people, they say that there is no such thing as free will. Because everything that I do only because Bhagavan wants me to do it. It's a very nice way of saying that I am not responsible for anything, right? Everything that I do, Bhagavan only does it through me. And therefore they say that where is the question of free will? When Bhagavan wants to give me moksha, he will give me moksha. Why should I go to Shravanam, Mananam and all that, study Upanishads and Bhashyams and Tikakaras? Not necessary. My only job is Saranagati. I will go and surrender. And once I have surrendered, whenever Bhagavan thinks it is appropriate, he will give me moksha. Right? Vedanta also talks about Saranagati, surrender. But in Vedanta, surrendering doesn't replace responsibility. In fact, Sharanagati is something which sort of makes you more responsible. And that's what is being referred to here. Yunjam, yogam yunjan. You have to take responsibility for your own actions. So yogam yunjan refers to prayatna, your responsibility, your free will. And mad ashrayaha, the next part of it. Yogam yunjan mad ashrayaha. Mad ashrayaha means it is the grace of the Lord. So once you have surrendered, that surrender takes place in the form of exercising my free will to do what Shastra tells me I should do, which is what Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Shravanam, Maranam, and Nididhyasana. So once I have used my free will to do this, I have surrendered. That is Sharanagati. Once the surrender is there, my part of the job is over, Prayatna is over, and then the baton passes to Lord, to Bhagavan. So Madashrayaha, my grace is going to come to you. So just your effort is not sufficient. Here the first verse is saying, you have to make an effort, but Ishvara's grace is also required. Ishvara's prasada is also required. Therefore, two things are required, Prayatna and Ishvara prasada. Effort, your own effort, plus the grace of the Lord will give you success. Only your effort minus the grace, you will have no success. Without the effort, there is no grace at all. Right? Therefore, equally important that there is no grace without effort. So grace minus effort is also unsuccessful. And therefore he says, Madashraya, Bhagavan's grace is required. And Shankara explains the meaning of the word Ashraya. Now, he says, that's a very good explanation, right? He says that supposing you want to achieve a particular objective, right? Let us say that you want to become Wimbledon #1 in tennis. Okay. What is the appropriate means? Regular practice. Regular practice with a competent, coach. All that is taken for granted. Regular practice is necessary. Therefore, the appropriate means to achieve your objective of becoming world #1 is the coach plus the practice. That combination, he says, is called Ashraya. Acharya is basically, what is the meaning of word Acharya? We have taken grace. Shankara says the grace really means that it is the effort which you are doing. And if the effort is right, Ishvara's grace is going to be there. Right? For example, take Agnihotram. Okay. Agnihotram is a ritual which all Vaidikas do once they get married. Now, Agnihotram gives you what? It gives you punyam. What is the punyam going to be utilized for? To go to Swarga, to go to heaven. And therefore, a person who does Agnihotram regularly, he's got a name. He's called the Agnihotra Ashrayaha. The one who has taken refuge to the ritual of Agnihotra for the purpose of fulfilling his object. This could be material gains, could be going to Swarga also. Now, going by that particular definition, if you want to get moksha, what do you need to adopt as the means? Ishvara alone. And therefore, Shankara says, Mad Ashrayaha is the person whose Ashraya is Mad. What is Mad over here? Not mud, not M-U-D, mud. Okay, it is Ishvara, Mat Ashraya. So the person whose Ashraya is Ishvara, he is the one who has got moksha as his ultimate goal. Now, is Ishvara the end or the means?
Means.
Both.
He is both. Because he just said that Ishvara is in religious terms, moksha is the other name in Vedantic terms. And therefore Ishvara is both the means and the end. How do you say that? Because the knowledge, the jnanam that you are seeking is not different from the objective which you seek to achieve by gaining the knowledge. Okay, now let me explain that. You are already Purnam, right? Why are you already Purnam? Because you are Brahman. You are already complete. And therefore, by knowing that I am, knowledge is what? Tattvamasi. You are Brahman. That is the knowledge, right? To put it in very brief terms, what is the entire knowledge that you get out of all these studies? One word, one compound word. Tattvamasi, aham brahma asmi. So that knowledge which you get, which says that you are Brahman, that itself is Purnatvam. The means is the knowledge, the end is the knowledge only. There is no action required after you know that I am Brahman. And therefore Ishvara is the means and Ishvara is the end. There is no other way. You can become Purnam only by knowing I am Purnam. You can become Atma only by knowing I am Atma. You can become Brahman only by Aham Brahma Asmi Jnana. There is no other way at all. No amount of karma, no amount of meditation, no amount of Sirshasanam, nothing will get you that. Only knowledge is there, right? Because it is nothing new that you are doing. That knowledge is not making you know that you are Brahman. That knowledge is telling you that you have always been Brahman. Okay, now coming back to the verse. So you require two forces. One is the individual effort, Purusha Prayatnaha, and one is the grace of the Lord, Ishvara Anugrahaha. Okay, so these are the conditions. Let me just summarize them for you. Or let me ask you to summarize. What are the three conditions that we have talked about? Anybody? We have said three conditions in there. What are three conditions for getting moksha?
The, the commitment of the sadhaka to the sadhana.
Okay.
The bhakti should be very strong. And Ishvara's grace.
And
Efforts.
effort. Okay.
Purusha Prayatna,
Yeah.
Ishvara Anugraha,
Yeah.
and the Sharanagati.
So the first one is knowing that Ishvara is my destination, right? Like knowing that moksha is what I seek. Knowing that the peace of mind, the fulfillment, the Purnatvam, that is my destination. That is Ishvara alone. So first is knowing Ishvara, knowing the Ishvara as the destination. Second one is Purusha Prayatnaha, your own effort. Third one is Ishvara Anugrahaha. And Krishna is saying these three conditions, if you fulfill here, Arjuna, there is no choice but for you to reach your destination. And this is the phalam. Therefore, samagra mam gyasyasi, he will know Purna Ishvara completely. Knowing the Lord is nothing but the equivalent of attaining the Lord. And therefore, the Upanishad says, Brahmavit apnoti paramam. The one who knows Brahman, he becomes Brahman. So when you know me, what will you know? When you know me, really know both my natures, Saguna Ishvara and Nirguna Ishvara. When you know Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman, you will know that you have never been different from me. You will know that you have always been me. You are, today also you are me. In future also you will continue to be me. You will know that you have always been Brahman. Today also you are Brahman. In future also you will be Brahman only. Therefore, there is no differentiation between you and Brahman. Here, remember that this is Advaita, okay? So in, for example, another branch of Advaitam, which is called Vishishta Advaitam, this is not true. So Ishvara Jnanam and Ishvara Prapti, that is to say, knowledge of Ishvara and becoming Ishvara, they are not the same thing in Vishishta Advaitam, right? They say that in this birth, in this Janma, you have to do your sadhana and get Ishvara Jnana. That's where we stop. Remember, we say you get Ishvara Jnanam and Ishvara Prapti is automatic. Right? It's like you take a knife and you cut a banana. That cutting the banana action is the same as splitting the banana into two pieces. Right? You don't need something more. That one action, of course, here is action only. But in terms of knowledge, we say, Advaitins say that gaining Ishvara Jnanam is the same as Ishvara Prapti. There is nothing more required after you have gained the Jnanam. But the Vishishta Advaitin, he will say that you have to gain Ishvara Jnanam in this Janma. Once having got the Jnanam, then you have to do worship, meditation, blah, 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 blah. All that you do, then what will happen? Your body will die. And because of all the punyam generated by the jnanam and the worship and the dhyanam and whatnot, you will go through Shuklagati and then you will go to Brahmaloka and then you will get Ishvara. So Brahmaloka, they won't say, they'll say, you go to Vaikuntha and you will attain Ishvara. That is the Vishishta Advaitam part of it. Remember, Vishishta Advaitam means that you are a part of Ishvara. Therefore, you will go to Shuklagati and you will go to Vaikuntham, where Lord Vishnu is sitting over there, and you are a small part of Lord Vishnu. So they will go there and then you will merge with Lord Vishnu, and that is moksha for them. Okay. The difference we should be clear about. So Ishvara Jnanam and Ishvara Prapti are two separate things for the Vishishta Advaitin. They are not only separate time-wise, but they are separate spatially also. They are separate space-wise also. Right? Whereas, okay, let me explain that further. Why are they spatially separate? Because you have to go to Vaikuntham to get Ishvara Prapti. Why are they time-wise separate? Because you get Jnanam in this Janma, and then after death, then you go to Vaikuntha, and there, after some time, you merge with Ishvara, right? So, spatially separate, time-wise separate. Whereas for us, for Advaitins, Ishvara Jnanam itself is Ishvara Prapti, here itself in this very life. That is what Krishna is saying. And then he says, Yatha Jnasasi Tachsunu. In which manner, Yatha Jnasasi, in which manner you should understand Ishvara, Tachsunu, I will tell you. That is the first verse. So, any questions so far? Been a rather longish introduction, but it's an important chapter. Okay. So, if no questions, then we will go on to the next verse.
Sir,
Yes,
may
Priya.
I ask a very elementary question? Why
Yeah,
is
of
it
course.
called Gyan Vijnana Yoga?
That you will come to know as we progress. Okay. Patience is the key over here.
Okay, thank you.
In fact, in this verse itself, we'll come to know. So, we'll chant the second verse. Jnanam teham savijnanam.
Jnanam teham
Jnanam
savignanam
Idam vakshyamaya sheshataha.
idam
idam
vakshamyashishitah
Yat jnatva neha bhuyonyat
yajñātvā neha bhūyat
Gyatavyam avashishyate.
ज्ञातव्यम्
Avashishyate.
Okay. So here Mira's question is going to be answered. Okay. So he says, this complete knowledge, it means both the knowledge of the higher nirguna nature and the lower saguna nature. And here, therefore, two pieces of knowledge are there. Saguna Ishvara Jnanam and Nirguna Ishvara Jnanam. And in this chapter, Krishna gives two technical names. Saguna Ishvara Jnanam, he calls Jnanam. And Nirguna Ishvara Jnanam, he calls Vijnanam, Vishesha Jnanam. Okay, Miraji, your question is answered. Saguna Ishvara Jnanam is
Yes, sir.
called Jnanam. Nirguna Ishvara Jnanam is called Vijnanam. So
Yes.
he says, Aham Jnanam Vakshyamihi. I will tell you Jnanam, which is I will tell you about Saguna Ishvara, and Savijnanam. I will also tell you about Nirguna Ishvara. Both Jnanam and Vijnanam I will impart to you. Why? Samagram Mam. You must understand me completely. Samagram Mam is from the previous verse. Samagram Mam includes Jnanam plus Vijnanam. Saguna Ishvara Jnanam plus Nirguna Ishvara Jnanam, both are included. Okay, at Saguna Ishvara Jnanam, what do we see? We see a distinction between me and Ishvara. I, the sadhaka, am different from Ishvara. That is the level of, that is a vision from Saguna Ishvara level. But when a person has been soaked in Saguna Ishvara Jnanam and has got the Chitta Shuddhi which is required, the Jnana Yogyata which is required, he will elevate himself and come to Jnanam. So let me make it more clear. Come to Nirguna Jnanam, Nirguna Swarupa Jnanam, right? So because the words Jnanam and Nirguna Jnanam and Vijnanam are being used, we have to be very careful in this particular chapter. Jnanam means Saguna Ishvara Jnanam. Vijnanam means Nirguna Ishvara Jnanam. And therefore, when the person has been soaked in Saguna Ishvara Jnanam and has got Chitta Shuddhi, he will come out of it and move into Vijnanam, which is Nirguna Swarupa Vijnanam. And here he finds that at Saguna Ishvara level, he thought he was different from Ishvara. But here he finds that the difference has gone. So it is like looking at the wave and the ocean. The names and forms are different. But if you look at the essential nature of both are water. Wave is water, ocean is water. From the wave and the ocean point of view, it is Saguna Jnanam because there are forms and there is a name attached to each form. From the essential water point of view, there is no difference. Both the forms dissolve into the essence, which is water. And therefore, Saguna Jnanam means Bheda Jnanam, where there is a differentiation between you and Ishvara. Nirguna Jnanam means Abheda Jnanam, where there is no differentiation between you and Ishvara. Now, Shankara, in his commentary, he translates Nirguna Jnanam as Brahma Anubhava. Okay. Now, the problem with Brahma Anubhava is that throughout all these years, we have been saying that there can be no Anubhava of Brahman. There can be no experience of Brahman. And therefore, in our language, we have to translate the word Anubhava as constantly being aware of. Of what? Of the fact that I am Brahman. Remember that you are Brahman. So the question of experience of Brahman cannot be there. Brahma Anubhava cannot be there. But because you have got a body-mind complex, and the mind can be taken up with so many external objects, Shankara says, Abheda Jnanam, Nirguna Jnanam is equal to Brahma Anubhava, which means constantly being aware of the fact that I am Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi Vritti is constantly floating around in your mind, which in our language we have said it is remaining in binary format, knowing that everything is Anatma, but that I am Atma. So constantly remembering Aham Brahmasmi. That is called Brahma Anubhava in Shankara's language, which is called Nirguna Jnanam or Vijnanam in Krishna's language. Okay. Therefore, the darshanam of Saguna Ishvara is possible. You can go and get Lord Shiva's darshan. You can go and get Lord Vishnu's darshan. But when you say Nirguna Ishvara darshanam, what darshan are you going to get? That darshan is nothing. Nirguna Ishvara darshanam is nothing but making the claim that I am Nirguna Ishvara. Okay, this part of our discussion is extremely important because it brings out ideas which we have not talked about before. When you say that I am going to claim that I am Nirguna Ishvara, how do I claim? What is meant by claiming that I am Ishvara? Do I simply go to the top of the roof and shout, I am Ishvara, I am Ishvara, I am Nirguna Ishvara? No. Claiming that you are Nirguna Brahman is nothing but deliberately having the thought, the vritti, Aham Brahma Asmi. That deliberate entertainment of the Aham Brahma Asmi vritti, that is the claim that I am Brahman. So I am always Nirguna Brahman. And therefore, when you understand and when you claim with conviction, okay, it's not that you read a textbook and claim. You claim with conviction only after years of Shravanam, years of Maranam, and years of Nididhyasanam have removed all the blocks from your mind, and you are now convinced. Your intellect has to be convinced that you are Brahman, Nirguna Brahman. That conviction is called claiming that I am Nirguna Ishvara, which is also known as Aparoksha Jnanam. Aparoksha Jnanam. In English, we call it immediate direct knowledge of your own nature. Right? Like today, if I ring you up in the middle of the night and say, who are you? You will say, I am so-and-so. I am June. I am Meera. I am so-and-so, right? That spontaneous acknowledgement of who you are as I am June thought has to be replaced when I call you at 3 in the morning and you say, who is there? Then you must say what? Brahman speaking. Okay? Not June speaking. When you say Brahman speaking, then that your knowledge is aparoksha. A spontaneous knowledge that I am Brahman. Just as today the spontaneous knowledge is that you are a man or a woman or a human being, it has to get replaced by the knowledge, spontaneous knowledge that you are Brahman. And therefore, if you have to transact in the world, it requires an effort. Because you have to remember that the human body is the instrument for transaction. The effortless transaction which you do today gets replaced by transaction with effort because the base has changed. Your spontaneous knowledge is no more I am Jiva, it is I am Brahman. Right? That is aparoksha jnanam. And therefore, this nirguna jnanam is aparoksha jnanam, but saguna jnanam is paroksha jnanam. Knowledge that there is Ishvara. That there is a Ishvara is paroksha jnanam. I am Ishvara is aparoksha jnanam. What is the benefit of this knowledge? So he says, jnanam te jnanam savijnanam aham idam vakshyama asheshataha. Te jnanam, te means to you. So to you, jnanam savijnanam. This jnanam, that is the saguna jnanam, and vijnanam, that is nirguna jnanam, aham idam vakshyamaha. I will tell you asheshataha, without leaving anything behind. Complete knowledge I will give you. Having gained all this knowledge, the complete knowledge, what will happen? You have nothing more to know. And therefore, all your intellectual questions will resolve. So, why is that necessary? Because we all of us experience samsara at different levels, okay? Like some people, especially, those who have no Vedanta in their vision. Some people, they can only talk about their diseases. What is my problem? Yesterday I had this problem. Today morning my back is spinning. Today morning my leg is spinning. I had cramps yesterday night. They can only talk about their problems, their old age, and the approaching death. So that's samsara at a physical level, right? A body level, there is samsara. Then they have samsara at the emotional or mind level. My children take care of me very well, but they don't spend time with me because he's in the USA. He never comes. He comes only once in a way. He sends money, but he doesn't care. There's a need for love, need for care, need for companionship. This is all emotional samsara. Why samsara? Whenever you depend upon something other than yourself, you run the risk of that thing going away. And therefore, the moment there is a risk of something going away, you have put your leg into samsara very firmly. So therefore, as long as I depend upon external factors for emotional fulfillment, I am a samsara. And therefore, Krishna is saying that, I'll tell you this. After having understood this, there is nothing more to understand. How does this knowledge, how does this jnanam address this? Because the entire universe is Ishvara. And Ishvara is Satyam. And when I understand Satyam really, what is most evident? That there is no mithya different from Satyam. Right? I have samsara today because I have not separated Satyam and Mithya. So I take the objects which give me problems as Satyam, and that is why I have problems. I take myself as Satyam, and I take my nagging spouse also as Satyam. But if I take myself as Satyam, and the nagging spouse is Mithya, then the issue resolves, right? As long as everything is separate from me, which means everything is Satyam, including me. If something else is also Satyam, that thing is separate from me. Anything separate from me becomes a source of disturbance for me. But I have to understand that there is nothing separate from me. Whatever I look upon as a source of trouble for me, that is also me only, because that is Mithya and I am Satyam. The Mithya is never different from the Satyam. Therefore, I need not run a battle with the world all the time. When nothing is separate from me, where is the question of any conflict? And therefore, Krishna says, Yat Jnatva. Having understood that Saguna Ishvara and Nirguna Ishvara are both nothing other than I alone, Neha Bhuyaha Anyat Yatavyam Avashishyate. Avashishyate means remains. Yatavyam means that which is to be known. Na iha bhuyaha anyat yatavyam avashishyate. In this world, there is nothing more which remains to be known. Right? Now, if at all you want to, having obtained this knowledge, once having obtained this knowledge, this statement that there is nothing more to be known in this world has to be understood carefully. It doesn't mean that I necessarily go into a cave and cut myself off because I don't want to know anything more. I don't want to read a physics book. I don't want to read a chemistry book. I don't want to read a Vedanta book. It doesn't mean that. It means that you don't want to know anything more because you know that you are Purnaha and nothing can improve that Purnatvam. 100% pure entity or complete entity cannot be made more complete. Having known that, you might want to read all the physics books that you want, all the chemistry books that you want, all the Prakarana Granthas you may want to read, but it is a hobby only. It is not going to be read to improve the quality of your life. Right? So Jnani knows everything. But when you say Jnani knows everything, it doesn't mean that the Jnani knows how to make Chinese noodles. Yeah, or he knows how to repair a car. This everything is Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. Everything which is needed to be known for his Purnatvam, he knows. Right? And therefore, if you go to a Jnani and says, do you know how to make Chinese noodles? And he says no, you shouldn't say that Shruti is wrong. How can he not know? All this is Arthavada only. It is called Stuti. It's for praising the knowledge. So when Shastram says, and you will come across such statements all across Shastram. Jnani is Sarvajnaha, knows everything. Sarvavit knows everything. But remember, knowing everything means knowing everything that is required to be known to complete his Purnatva. Not that you can call him home to repair your fridge. That is not going to happen. So with this, we'll stop for the day. Any questions?
Acharya ji.
Yes, Amit.
Acharya ji, can you please explain this concept which you just spoke, like we understand that we are Brahman, and so up till now I used to think that I am Brahman, other is also Brahman, but like you are saying that I am Brahman, other is Mithya. So can you just please?
Okay, so there is Shankara gave a very beautiful little verse once upon a time. I think those who have done TTC may have known the English version of that. It says, the verse, if I remember correctly, says, Ardha Shlokena. What is the verse? Ardha Shlokena. Anybody knows? Aham Vekshyami. In half a shloka, I will tell you. Yaduktam Grantha Kotibihi. That which has been laid out in thousands of texts. Shankara is saying in thousands of texts what has been said, I will tell you in half a shloka. Okay. Remember, this shloka is already half. Ardha Shlokena Aham Pravakshyami. What? Yaduktam Grantha Kotibihi. That is half a shloka. So what remains is only another half. What is the other half? Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Jivo Brahmaiva na Paraha. Brahman is Satyam, Jagat is Mithya. The Jiva is not different from Brahman. That is the very essence of the entire Vedic Shastra. If you can understand that last, not even the full shloka, half shloka, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva na Paraha, if you can understand that, you have understood all the texts possible. Now, the question is, Which is to be understood first? Brahma Satyam or Jagat Mithya?
Brahma Satyam.
That is where you are wrong. And that is this very crux of your confusion. Unless you dismiss the whole world as Mithya, you can never accept yourself as such. So the first step is to dismiss the world as Mithya, which is why in every text you will find the creation is dealt with in great detail. So there is a way of presenting. It is called Adhyaropa Apavada. When you say there is a sampradaya for presenting, there is a technique of presenting. When we say there is a technique of teaching the Shastram, it is simply this. First you present something and then you negate it. So first you present the world. That is the Adhyaropa, because you are presenting a world which has been superimposed upon Brahman. And therefore, unless you dismiss the superimposition, how can you ever accept that you are Brahman? You are seeing the entire Jagat, which is nothing but Adhyaropa, a superimposition upon Brahman. When you dismiss the superimposition, then only can you accept that I am Brahman. Therefore, first learn to negate Mithya, then say I am Satyam. Yes, Alkaji, I think you raised a hand.
So Acharya, one
Yeah,
thing
Amit, go ahead.
like up till now, when I say that Jagat is Mithya, then I used to replace Jagat with Brahman. That okay, he's also Brahman, tree is also Brahman, everything is Brahman. But instead of replacing Jagat with Brahman, thinking that is a Mithya, that's what not getting clear. That how to,
No,
because I can see.
replacement of Jagat with Brahman is the dismissal.
Okay.
You got that correct. When you replace everything with Brahman, you are actually dismissing Mithya, because you are saying there is nothing other than Brahman.
Okay, got
When
it.
you replace gold bangle with, when you replace the word bangle with gold, what have you done? You have negated the bangle as a real substance. You have said the bangle is not there, actually only gold is there. And therefore, when you replace the Jagat with Brahman, you are saying Jagat is not there, only Brahman is there. That is the dismissal. Once that
Got it.
dismissal has been done, Mithya should have no place in your mind. Whatever you see is Brahman alone.
Thanks, Acharya. Got it.
Anybody else? I think Alkaji raised her hand. I'm not very sure why she withdrew it, but anyway.
Acharya.
Yes, Pandana.
Just stretching that a little more, I was contemplating on this verse from chapter 4 yesterday, which says, Arjuna, chapter 4, verse 35. When you have achieved enlightenment, ignorance will delude you no more. In the light of that knowledge, you will see the entire creation first within your own self and then in me. So I'm trying to understand this in context of what you just said.
Yeah.
Which is, first you see the entire Jagat as Mithya, and then you will be able to claim yourself as Brahman.
You could take that example, or you could say Yena Bhutanya Sheshena Rakshasyatmanyato Mai. You are saying that you will see that you are no different from the world. And that world is in me only, right? So you have just compressed both the things. When you say world is in me only, you say I am Satyam and the world is in me. Therefore, world is also Satyam, which means it's not Mithya at all. There is no such thing as the world.
All right.
So the point is that unless, and this is a very important point, unless Jagan Mithyatvam is firmly established in our mind, it is difficult to take the leap into Brahma Satyam. Which is why all the scriptures, they start with the Adhyaropa and then lastly they do the Apavada.
And I thank you. what does it mean when Lord Krishna here says, and then you will be able to see in me after seeing in yourself?
When you know that the entire world is in me, that is step number 1, right? But who am I?
Brahman.
Brahman. Therefore, the entire world is in Brahman, and that Brahman is in me, and that Brahman is me. And when you say entire world is in me, that's the first dismissal of mithya, that there is no world separate from me.
Mhm.
Once having done that, you have to acknowledge that, okay, I am the creator, fine, but I am Brahman also. And therefore, if there's no world from me, different from me, there is no world different from Brahman, that Brahman which I am, which means what? Only I am. Nothing else is. Everything else is name and form alone, mithya alone.
Mhm. Thank you, Acharya.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, Acharya,
Yes, Shweta.
about Dvaita, we discussed initially in the introduction about Dvaitism, that we are part of, like in this philosophy, we are part of Brahman, and after that, I mean, after realizing, we ultimately merge with Brahman or merge with Narayana or whoever the Ishta Devata is.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to, how did this come in existence, this philosophy? Because then Advaita becomes like we are part of Brahman, like I have the same essence of Brahman, that's why I am no different than Brahman. But how did this come into the existence about this philosophy? I'm just trying to contemplate that.
See, there is only one Upanishad, okay? There are different interpretations. That is the beauty of our scriptures, that they are subject to different interpretations. So there is Madhavacharya, there is Ramanuja, and there is Shankara. 3 different interpretations. One is dualistic, where it says that you are different from Brahman and you shall never be the same. And then there is Vishishta Advaitam. So the first one is Dvaitam, second one is Vishishta Advaitam, which says that you are part of Brahman. Third one is Advaitam, which says that you are Brahman. There are different interpretations. And there are people who follow any of the interpretations depending on what appeals to them.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Acharya. One more small thing is that when we have a conflict, like when this is contemplating about Jagat is mithya, and when you have a conflict, it's about a personal situation. When you have a conflict between someone with someone, then how to resolve that in your mind, in your mind, that this is all mithya. So whatever he or she is saying would be the truth, and you need to accept that. Is that the approach we should go for?
There is confusion there in the statement itself.
Okay.
You are saying that in the Vyavaharika world, in the Mithya world is not unreal. In the sense, it's not unreal in the sense that it's not there. It's very much there. Conflict should be very much there. You have to resolve the conflict in a very logical manner. You cannot use Satyam concept over there. At the higher level, you can always say that everything is Mithya, I don't care what happens. Right? But that's not practically feasible. Because you are sitting there and somebody is nagging you, and therefore just telling us, oh, I am Brahman is not going to help. Okay.
Yes.
So you use your transactional tools which you have, maturity. So many things are there. Sama, Dhamma is there. You can simply walk away also. Everything is allowed. But don't bring Paramarthika into that. Paramarthika level is when you have got away from the person who nags you, and then you are trying to resolve the whole thing, and you say, fine, he is also mithya, I am also mithya. Because remember that the person who is interacting is very much mithya, okay? Only you as Brahman are Satyam.
And she's also Brahman. Yeah.
Yes. Right. So that That you never forget, that at the transactional level, everything is mithya. And therefore you can of course be that mature as to say that whatever he does is okay with me. It's a very rare person who can do that. It's possible. I'm not saying not possible.
It's possible, but it sometimes come to your heart, it hurts you. That's what I'm trying to contemplate. Why is it hurting when it's the same?
That's what I'm saying, that when you say it hurts me, you are not talking about Brahman at all.
Yes.
You're talking about a mind. That mind is very much in Vyavaharika.
Yes.
All you can tell yourself is, at the proper level is, this mind is being hurt, but I am not the mind. That is an okay statement to make, but that statement is made not in that heat of the argument, but when you have resolved the argument and have stepped backwards, and you're trying to get rid of that remaining disturbance in your mind. That is when you say that, okay, that my mind was hurt, but that is my mind. It's an instrument. I am not the mind.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Acharya. Thank you. I'm resolving it after. It's an after effect now.
Yeah. So after effects, you can do that. That's not a problem. Okay. There's one, Lata says, what do we mean to claim? I did say claiming means constantly reminding yourself that you are Brahman. That statement must run in your mind. Aham Brahma Asmi. That is the claiming. Accepting the fact that you are Brahman. That is the claiming.
Thank you, Raviji. But we know that we can't experience it. So we just have to claim that by just telling this to ourselves again and again, and
not just telling, by understanding and convincing yourself, which is
okay.
not going to happen. And it's like I keep saying, if you want the lime pickle to be sweet, you can't dip it in the sauce and take it out. You have to leave it overnight, or you do for 10 days or 15 days or whatever. Each of those days equivalent to one of the years in Vedanta. So you can probably soak in Vedanta for 15 years, properly soaked. That thought, Aham Brahmasmi, will be understood. You will have no doubts about the fact that I am Brahman. When that doubtless state of mind is there, then the repetition becomes automatic. It's a very subtle vritti, It's like today you are saying I am Lata. You don't have to constantly remind yourself that you are Lata, right? That when you don't have to do that about the Brahman status, that is the. It doesn't mean it's not there. It becomes a sukshma vritti. The subtle thought constantly present in the mind, but not visible to you, is that I am Brahman.
Okay, maybe need to dwell over this a little more.
Lots more.
In fact, not little. It's
all of us.
I don't know how long. Yeah.
That how long is a question which can be answered only by the Lord. It could be this rest of this life. It could be the rest of the next life, next 10 lives. Who knows?
Yeah. Thank you, Raviji.
Yeah.
It could be this instant also, sir. Let's be like that.
Can be tomorrow morning also, or even just now after class. That's also possible.
Yes, completely.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for your patience. So we'll meet next week. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashyate Om Shanti Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Tat Sat. Thank you.